Hey folks, well, welcome to part two. I knew it was going to be a long one. This one, just looking at the notes, I knew everything I wanted to say about Nolan, his previous films and everything would elongate this one. Uh, but I don't know how long this part two is going to be because, as I said in the last video, that was all the things I liked. There were lots of things I liked about the films, but those were a few that really impressed me. If I have any criticisms, well, I don't know if this really is a criticism, but I think time will tell on this one. But I'm willing to bet that Harry Styles is in this film from a boy band. What are they called? One True Voice. He, I, his performance has been praised a lot. He's people have been going on saying, "No, this is a revelatory performance." But from watching the film now, and he's not bad in the film, but from watching the way it was edited, I'm willing to bet that Nolan will have edited around a bad performance there. Just because he is essentially a minor character in the film. This isn't. I'm sure he will get more acting work after this, and I think time will tell whether he's really got the chops to be a proper actor and a proper movie star. I might be proved wrong about this, but yeah, I'm willing to bet that this is one of those ones like, say, J Lo in Outer Sight, where a good director managed to get a good performance out of a bad actor, and subsequent films that built on their star power really highlighted that this person can't actually act at all. They just needed the right helmsman at the ship. But who knows? I might be proved wrong, and 5 years from now we might hear, and the Oscar goes to Harry Styles. We'll see. Film is oddly bloodless. I think that was maybe it's only noticeable and stands out in a few parts in the film. That there's very little gore and not on display, and not that I was going in wanting to see gore, but it is a war movie at the end of the day, and it was violent and it was bloody in real life, and there were a lot of people killed there, and I don't understand why they did it. They wanted to go for the PG-13 rating, but honestly, from what I've seen, I think it's adult audiences who are going and paying to see this film. I think the film, it might not necessarily been any better, but it would have felt one level more authentic. I feel had they put a bit more blood and a bit more. Just so it shown the real, it would have taken you one step further, closer to the reality of war. Had they been able to show the effects of bullets and drowning and burning in oil at sea. So yeah, I'd say that does let it down slightly. Apparently, there's a few historical inaccuracies. These can't really. I wouldn't really say these are criticisms of the films, because you really have to know a little bit of the history. But I mean, the very first shot, or a few shots, involve a few of the central characters running through the town of Dunkirk, towards the beach, and the town looks pretty much like it does today. This was shot on location in the real Dunkirk. Whereas I understand that at that point in the war. The town of Dunkirk would have been pretty much devastated. You know, it would have looked like Dresden or Berlin towards the end of the war. So the fact that it looks pretty much untouched is an historical inaccuracy. But again, you know, only me telling you that now will if you didn't know, you wouldn't be any of the wiser. Um, the film's very British centric, you know, in the same way that a criticism of Saving Private Ryan is it's very American centric, you know, where are all the British troops in that, even though we were on a different part of the beach, which is, but you know, in this film you get, you know, one spoiler, one French character, but the French aren't very well represented, and neither are the Canadians or the Africans or uh, might be an Indian troops there. I know there's definitely French and Canadian. Again, this is one of those points where. I'm sure some historian or can get in the comments and say, well, actually, you know, the Canadians were stationed point four west, 0.5 miles north, and wouldn't actually have been there at the time. Okay, but from what I understand, you know, the British centric nature of the film does leave some of the other nationalities poorly represented. I haven't mentioned the chopped up timeline of this. You know, I think everyone knows now that the central gimmick of this film feels like you know, that the make the same way that you know, Tarantino, after he made Pulp Fiction, he kind of got a reputation of being the chop up the timeline guy, and he felt almost obliged to put similar sort of gimmicks in his films. So you got you know, a chopped up timeline in one section in Jackie Brown, and you got a chopped up narrative in Kill Bill, and almost to the point where you get to the Hateful Eight and you get chapter 4, which takes place before chapter 1, but then it almost feels obligatory. You know, it doesn't feel like it's an exciting gimmick anymore. It just feels like something that you've got to do, and here is something that Tarantino had to do, and then here as well you know, it feels like this is Nolan saying, hey, I'm the guy who made Memento, and I'm going to prove it to you by doing something tricksy and a bit art house with the narrative of this film. For those of you who don't know, it's the fact that he chops up three narratives, but one takes place over a week, which is the land section. The beach section. One takes place over one day, which is the sea section, and one takes place over 1 hour, which is the aerial section. And so you get moments of crossover. So you see, it becomes apparent when it flits from night to day, and you get one character turning up in one timeline, but then being in a different place in another timeline, and that happens once or twice in the film. And whereas I'm putting this in under the criticisms part, not because I mean, it works. I mean, it's well, yeah. I think it could have worked better. If I was, if you'd have asked me 15 years ago, I'd have said that's the best part of the film. That's the film that really makes it feel fresh and exciting is the chopped up narrative. Because it kind of it did blow my mind when I saw it done in films like Pulp Fiction and Memento, and I think Amores Perez does it, and yeah, 21 grams, really goes to town on that sort of structure. And it is an imaginative way to tell the story, but it did sort of get in the way. I've it doesn't feel as fresh now in 2017 as it did maybe back in the 90s and early noughties, when that sort of storytelling which was really taken from a lot of postmodern novel structures felt more contemporary, and there were a few moments where it started to confuse me, especially when the characters started crossing over from one timeline to the other, and I was left thinking at one point. I was literally looking at Tom Hardy in a plane and thinking, hang on, is this happening now, or is this happening then now? And when you start thinking like that, it kind of takes you out of something that's meant to be, the main goal of this film is to put you in the mindset of the British troops on that beach, and when you suddenly have a gimmick that shows up the artifice of a situation, then it kind of takes you out of that experience. So there you go. There's just a few nitpicks, but on the whole, I mean. I think this film was very impressive, because there's so many elements that really work about this film. I had a good feeling about this one early on, right from the teasers. What's interesting about when Christopher Nolan releases a teaser trailer for a film is that because he shoots everything so practically, that his teaser trailers are always way more impressive than most people's, because teaser trailers are usually a bit underwhelming these days, and the reason for that is they haven't added all the CGI yet, because that always comes sort of late in the stage, the money shots in the films. Christopher Nolan, he shoots all the money shots in camera, so his money shots are there once he's wrapped production, like they were in the olden days. So, I remember watching, the teaser for this over 6 months ago now, and thinking, wow, that looks incredible. If anything, the cinematography in that film is going to be something to behold. So yeah, just a good war movie. I mean, whether it'll go down as a classic remains to be seen. I don't know. I don't know whether it'll have a rewatchability factor on TV. So if you're going to see it, do definitely see it at the cinema, because it is a great spectacle, and it is a very respectful tribute to the victims and the survivors of that week on that beach in Dunkirk, and for that alone, and for a million other reasons, from a technical standpoint, it's really worth seeing. This is why I hate doing reviews of films I've only just seen, because I really don't know. I'm really worried that I am overpraising this thing, and I might change my mind and think, no, it wasn't as good as everyone made out. A year from now it was, but who knows? I saw it 24 hours ago, and I have been thinking about it all today, and thinking, there's just a lot in there that's impressive. It's certainly, there's a lot less to criticise than there is in Interstellar and The Dark Knight Rises. So just from a Chris Nolan fanboy standpoint, it's it's a triumph. I'm totally rambling now, and I'm getting hungry, and I want to go and have some dinner. So I'm going to sign off, folks. So there you go, Dunkirk. Thumbs up from me, and until next time, this is me, Big Buddha, signing off, and I shall see you all out there in YouTube land.